The soft hum of the habitat's life support system was Ilara's lullaby, a constant gentle breath beneath the vast, silent tapestry of space. Her room, circular and snug, was designed for dreaming. One entire wall was a shimmering viewport, currently dimmed to a deep indigo, allowing only the faintest cosmic dust to drift across its surface. But it was only a viewport, a window to the outside. Her true universe, the one she wove each night, was within. Ilara, a wisp of a girl with hair the color of polished moonrock and eyes that held the deep space glimmer of nebulae, was nestled in her zero-gravity hammock, a woven cocoon of biomemory fibers that cradled her just so. Beside her, on a small floating pedestal, lay her most cherished possession, the lumen loom. It wasn't a loom in the traditional sense. No threads of silk or wool, but a smooth iridescent console, cool to the touch, with a central crystalline lens that pulsed with an internal, gentle light. Her mother, Dr. Iris Thorne, an astrophysicist whose mind was as boundless as the cosmos she studied, often said Ilara had inherited her father's wanderlust and her mother's fascination with light. Her father, Captain Jax Thorne, was an astrogator, currently charting the uncharted reaches of the Perseus Arm, a journey that would take him years, light years away from their orbital home, Celeste Prime. "All right, little starlight weaver," Aura, Ilara's personal nurture bot, chimed, its voice a soothing blend of chimes and whispers. Aura was a sleek silver sphere that hovered effortlessly, its optical sensors glowing with a warm, empathetic light. Time to dim the ambient and let the stars truly sing. Ilara giggled, a sound like tiny crystalline bells. "They don't sing, Aura. They pulse. They shimmer. They tell stories." "Indeed they do, my dear. And you are their most gifted interpreter." Aura glided towards the viewport, its sensors adjusting the light levels until the indigo deepened to a velvety black, pinpricked with a million distant suns. The real stars, raw and brilliant, unfurled themselves against the obsidian. Ilara took a deep breath, her small chest expanding with anticipation. This was her favorite part of the day, the moment when the ordinary faded, and the extraordinary began. She reached for the lumen loom, her fingers tracing the smooth contours of its casing. The crystalline lens pulsed a little brighter, as if recognizing her touch. "Are you looking for your father's star tonight?" Aura asked softly, already knowing the answer. Ilara nodded, her gaze fixed on the endless expanse beyond the viewport. "Always. He said to look for the heart of Lyra, and he'd find his way back to it. That it was our anchor." She sighed, a small puff of air in the enclosed space. "But Lyra has so many stars. And he's so far away." The lumen loom wasn't just a fancy projector. It was a conduit, a sensitive instrument capable of capturing and modulating the actual photons arriving from the distant cosmos. It could take the faint ancient light of a star, amplify it, filter it, and allow Ilara to interact with its spectral data, not just as numbers and graphs, but as colors, textures, and even resonant frequencies. Her mother had designed it, originally as a research tool, but had quickly realized its profound, almost mystical potential in Ilara's hands. With a gentle tap on the console, the lumen loom whirred to life. The central crystal flared, projecting a focused beam of pure, unadulterated starlight onto the circular ceiling above Ilara's hammock. It wasn't just a projection. It felt alive. The ceiling transformed into a swirling holographic canvas, a miniature galaxy unfolding directly above her. Ilara's fingers danced across the loose interface, not touching but hovering, guiding. She didn't press buttons. She felt the energy fields, shaping them with subtle gestures and the focused intent of her mind. Her mother called it a form of biotelepathy, a natural resonance between Ilara's brainwaves and the loom's quantum processors. She began with a familiar constellation, the one her father had pointed out to her since she was old enough to gaze at the night sky. Lyra. With a sweeping motion of her hand, the diffuse starlight on the ceiling coalesced, drawing the faint outline of the Harp Deoq. Vega, Lyra's brightest star, pulsed with a cool blue-white brilliance, a beacon in the crafted darkness. "Tonight, I'm going to trace his journey," Ilara whispered, more to herself than to Aura. "He's heading towards the Great Rift, past the Cygnus Arm." She manipulated the loom, pulling in light from more distant sectors. The ceiling swirled with new patterns, new colors. Each star had its own unique signature, a specific spectral fingerprint that Alara translated into a color and a subtle vibration. Red giants glowed with a deep warm ruby. Young hot blue stars shimmered with sapphire brilliance. Distant, ancient galaxies pulsed with an ethereal, silvery gold luminescence. As she wove, the room filled with a symphony of light and soft atmospheric sound. The lumen loom translated the stars' frequencies into a gentle, harmonious hum, each celestial body contributing its own note. It was music born of the cosmos, playing just for her. She tried to imagine her father, piloting his sleek, silent vessel, this star weavery, through this very expanse. Was he looking back at Lyra? Was he thinking of her? The thought sent a familiar pang of longing through her heart. Alara focused on the region where her father's last known trajectory would intersect with the Cygnus arm. She tried to visualize the vast distances, the unfathomable emptiness between the star clusters. The loom responded, pulling in more light, denser patterns. The ceiling became a swirling vortex of color, a dynamic, three-dimensional map. She could almost feel the cold vacuum, the immense scale of it all. She reached out, her hand passing through the projected light, feeling a subtle warmth, a tingle of energy. She selected a particularly vibrant cluster of young stars, a celestial nursery where new suns were being born. She magnified it, filling the entire ceiling with its chaotic beauty. Streams of glowing gas, like cosmic rivers, flowed between the nascent stars, painting a picture of raw creative power. She thought of her father, always eager to witness such wonders, to be at the forefront of discovery. "He'd love this," she murmured, a wistful smile gracing her lips. "He always said the universe was the greatest artist." Aura drifted closer, its optical sensors reflecting the swirling starlight. "He would indeed, Alara. And he would be immensely proud of your own artistry." Alara spent what felt like an eternity, lost in the cosmic ballet. She wove constellations into flowing tapestries, traced the ghostly pathways of ancient stellar nurseries, and followed the trails of comets through the black. She created nebulae of swirling phosphorescent gas, and brought forth distant quasars that pulsed with the light of 1,000 galaxies. It was her nightly journey, her escape, her way of feeling connected to the boundless universe her father traversed. Tonight, however, as she meticulously charted the Cygnus arm, trying to overlay her father's projected path, a peculiar anomaly began to manifest. She was focusing on a particularly dim yellow dwarf star, one that was usually unremarkable, a mere speck in the grand design. She had selected it simply because it lay near the edge of her father's projected route. A marker point. As she tried to amplify its light, to bring its faint spectral signature into clearer focus, something unexpected happened. The lumen loom, usually so responsive, seemed to hesitate. The light from that specific star, instead of simply brightening, began to flicker with an unusual rhythm. It wasn't the natural twinkle of a star seen through atmospheric distortion, nor the regular pulse of a variable star. This was different. It was a eye-patterning knot. Alara's breath hitched. She leaned closer to the loom, her fingers instinctively pausing their dance. The ceiling, dominated by the amplified image of the yellow dwarf, showed a series of distinct, deliberate flashes. Long, short, long, long, short. It was like a coded message. "Aura," Alara whispered, her voice barely audible. "Did you see that?" Aura's optical sensors narrowed, monitoring spectral anomaly from designated star K714. Fluctuation pattern is highly unusual for a star of its class. Analyzing, patterns do not correspond to known stellar phenomena. Alara didn't need Aura's analysis. She felt it. A shiver, not of cold but of profound recognition, ran down her spine. This wasn't just random stellar activity. This was intentional. She focused all her will, all her connection, onto that one flickering star. She willed the lumen loom to amplify it further, to strip away any interference, to bring her closer to its message. The crystal in the loom pulsed violently, mirroring the star's erratic rhythm. The projected light on the ceiling flared almost painfully bright, then dimmed, then flared again, drawing out the sequence. Long flash. Short flash. Long, long flash. Short flash. Pause. Long flash. Short flash. Long, long flash. Short flash. Pause. It repeated insistently, like a distant heartbeat trying to reach her across the vast emptiness. Elara found herself unconsciously mimicking the rhythm with her own breathing, her own pulse quickening. And then, just for a fleeting moment, within the heart of the flickering yellow dwarf, she saw something else. A faint, almost imperceptible shimmer, like a ripple in a cosmic pond. It was a distortion, a tiny, almost invisible tear in the fabric of the starlight itself, and within that distortion, a fleeting, ghost-like image. It was too quick, too blurry to discern clearly, but it was there. A shape. An outline. Something metallic, impossibly far away, yet somehow connected to this rhythmic light. Elara gasped, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and breathtaking wonder. She reached out, her hand trembling, trying to touch the elusive image. But as quickly as it appeared, it vanished, leaving only the persistent, rhythmic flashing of the yellow dwarf. "Aura, did you see it?" she asked, her voice hushed, almost reverent. The shape? In the light? Aura's sensors glowed brighter, processing the data. Anomalous energy signature detected concurrent with visual aberration. Insufficient data for conclusive identification, suggesting a localized lensing effect or a highly sophisticated projection. Elara ignored the scientific explanations. She knew what she had felt. She knew what she had seen. It wasn't a lensing effect. It was a message. And the rhythm. It was familiar. She had heard it somewhere before. A forgotten lullaby. A secret knock? She closed her eyes, trying to recall. The rhythm resonated deep within her, a primal echo. Long, short, long, long, short. When she opened her eyes again, the yellow dwarf was still flashing, relentless in its message. And now, as she watched, the light around it, the diffuse, ancient light of the Cygnus arm, seemed to subtly shift. It wasn't just the one star anymore. It was as if the entire region was responding. The cosmic canvas, slowly, almost imperceptibly, rearranging itself around this persistent beacon. It was calling to her. And somehow, she knew exactly what it was. It was her father's distress signal. The emergency beacon had taught her to recognize, woven into the very fabric of starlight. But how? And from a star so far away, so seemingly random. A wave of conflicting emotions washed over her. Profound relief that it was him, terror at the implication of a distress signal, and an overwhelming surge of purpose. She had to understand. She had to respond. The lumen loom, which had always been a tool for dreaming and connection, had just become something else entirely. It was a bridge. And her father was on the other side, sending her a message across the vast, silent sea of stars. Elara's breath hitched, a silent gasp caught in her throat. Her fingers, usually so delicate on the lumen loom's intricate controls, now flew with a frantic, almost desperate precision. The soft ambient hum of the device, typically a soothing lullaby of interwoven starlight and memory, transformed. It began to pulse, a vibrant, urgent thrumming that resonated deep within her chest, echoing the frantic beat of her own heart. The shimmering thread of light that had first appeared, pointing towards the distant star, intensified. It wasn't just a beacon. It was a conduit, a whisper becoming a faint murmur. Elara leaned closer, pressing her ear to the cool, smooth surface of the lumen loom's main crystal. She could almost feel the fabric of space-time stretching and vibrating, a bridge forming where only void had been. Fragments began to coalesce. Not clear images, not distinct sounds, but sensory echoes. The tang of ozone and scorched metal, a metallic taste on her tongue. A crushing sense of loneliness, followed by a fierce, unyielding determination. Emotions so distinctly Hege, that Elara felt a fresh wave of tears prickling her eyes. Then, a single fleeting image flashed across the lumen loom's central display, a blurred, desolate landscape, stark and alien, under the glow of a twin sun. And in the very corner of the frame, a flicker of something familiar, the faint, distinct insignia of the Stardust Seeker, her father's lost vessel, half buried in crimson dust. "Dad," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the loom's rising thrum. You're really there. The lumen loom, sensing her intense focus, her overwhelming intent, began to reconfigure itself. Its usually placid interface, designed for gentle dreamweaving, shifted. New pathways of light bloomed across its surface, like constellations coming alive. What had been soft, undulating patterns for memory, recall now hardened into sharp, analytical lines, tracing complex algorithms Elara didn't fully understand, but somehow each felt were right. She knew, with an intuitive certainty that bypassed logic, that she couldn't tell her mother yet. Not until she had more. Her mother, bless her kind heart, had finally found a fragile peace after years of quiet grief. To reignite that hope, only to have it extinguished again, would be unbearable. Elara had to be sure. She had to gather undeniable proof. Silently, stealthily, she moved through the darkened house, the lumen loom cradled in her arms. Its light, now a beacon of fiery resolve, cast long dancing shadows. She made her way to her father's study. A room her mother rarely entered, a sanctuary of forgotten dreams and intricate schematics. The air still held the faint scent of his favorite spiced tea, and the unique metallic tang of the complex alloys he worked with. She carefully placed the lumen loom on his workbench, nestled amongst dusty data slates and half-finished prototypes. The loom pulsed brighter, as if recognizing its true home, its rightful context. Elara activated the workbench's central holographic display, calling up the vast archived star charts her father had spent a lifetime compiling. "Show me," she commanded the lumen loom. "The star. The one you just found." The loom responded instantly, projecting a precise set of coordinates onto the holographic display. A pinpoint of light flared into existence, far, far beyond the charted regions of known space. It was a binary star system, catalogued only as Solara 279 Gamma, deemed uninhabitable, unstable, and utterly devoid of any strategic or scientific interest, a cosmic dead end, a place no astrogator would ever intentionally venture. "Why, Dad? Why were you there?" Elara began cross-referencing. She delved into her father's personal logs, his theoretical models, the encrypted files he'd thought only he could access. She found obscure references to fringe space phenomena, gravitational anomalies at the galactic edge, and a recurring, almost obsessive fascination with the whispers between the stars. A poetic phrase he'd used to describe faint, inexplicable energy signatures emanating from the deep void. As she worked, the lumen loom continued its silent, tireless work. The fragmented signal it was receiving began to resolve, slowly, painfully. It wasn't a continuous stream, but bursts, like static-laden postcards arriving across unimaginable distances. The loom in its new emergent function began to stitch these fragments together, building a rough, composite picture. It showed her glimpses of a hostile environment, jagged, crystalline mountains that pierced a sky of swirling gases, rivers of liquid sulfur, and flora that glowed with an eerie phosphorescent light. And amidst it all, the recurring image of the Ye Stardust Seeker, not just crashed, but torn asunder, its once proud hull twisted into grotesque shapes. But her father was alive. The lumen loom had confirmed that. He was moving, albeit slowly. He was doing something. He wasn't just waiting for rescue. He was actively trying to communicate, trying to survive. The fragmented message was not a simple cry for help, but a complex data stream, encoded with his unique personal cipher, a combination of his favorite ancient Earth poetry and complex mathematical constants. It was a message designed for Hardier. Elara recognized the pattern. Her father had always believed in the power of shared knowledge, of creating systems that were intuitively accessible yet deeply secure. The lumen loom, she realized, wasn't just receiving a signal, it was coding it. And it was doing so because of their bond, because she held the implicit key to his mental architecture. The loom hummed louder, drawing more power from the study's ancient energy conduits. Its crystal matrix, usually a milky white, now glowed with an inner fire, shifting through a spectrum of deep blues, purples, and incandescent greens. Elara remembered her father's half-joking remark about the lumen loom being the universe's most sophisticated sympathetic resonator. At the time, she'd thought it was just a fancy way of saying it helped people connect. Now, the scientific implications crashed over her. Sympathetic resonance. Quantum entanglement. These weren't just abstract concepts from his dusty textbooks, they were the very principles upon which the Lumen Loom was built. It wasn't just a dreamweaver. It was a trans-dimensional bridge, disguised as a toy, waiting for the right moment, the right connection, to awaken its true potential. Her father, brilliant and foresightful, must have known. He must have designed it, not just for her comfort, but as a last, desperate hope. A fresh wave of resolve washed over Alara. She wasn't just receiving a message, she was being called to action. The Lumen Loom wasn't just receiving, it was trying to sending. A faint, almost imperceptible pulse emanated from it. A hopeful, desperate inquiry into the void. It was trying to bridge the gap, not just one way, but two. Okay, Loom, Alara whispered, stroking its warm, glowing surface. What do you need? How do we talk back? The device responded with a flurry of projected schematics, overlaying the star charts. They were complex, dizzying arrays of energy conduits, focusing lenses and crystalline resonators. It wasn't just about amplifying the signal, it was about shaping it, giving it intent, purpose, and enough energetic coherence to traverse light years. The Loom needed more power. Far more power than the study's domestic grid could provide. Her gaze fell upon a dusty covered object in the corner of the study. It was a relic from her father's earliest days as an inventor, a prototype energy coil, affectionately nicknamed the Star Heart. He'd built it to generate miniature, contained singularities for theoretical propulsion experiments. It was dangerous, volatile, and had been mothballed years ago after a minor, localized temporal distortion incident that had turned the study's clock back by an hour for 3 weeks. Alara knew the risks. Her father had meticulously documented every potential hazard, every failsafe, every contingency. But he had also documented its immense power potential. If anything could provide the raw energy needed for the Lumen Loom to become a true interstellar communicator, it was the Star Heart. With newfound determination, she pulled the cover off the Star Heart. It looked like a miniature, intricate galaxy, coils of superconducting filaments woven around a central, shimmering crystal core. It hummed with a dormant power, a silent promise of raw, untamed energy. Connecting it to the Lumen Loom was a delicate dance of precision and intuition. Her father's schematics, now projected by the Loom, guided her hands. She bypassed safety protocols, feeling a thrill of forbidden knowledge. This wasn't just about fixing a device. It was about completing a circuit, fulfilling a purpose, a legacy. As the final connection clicked into place, the Star Heart pulsed once, deeply, then began to glow. A deep, resonant thrum filled the study, vibrating through the floor and up into Alara's bones. The Lumen Loom, now fully energized, flared with an intensity that made her blink. Its central crystal pulsed like a heart, radiating waves of coherent light. The fragmented images on its display coalesced further. She saw her father, his face etched with fatigue but his eyes burning with a familiar, intelligent fire. He was inside a makeshift shelter, the remnants of his ship's life support pod. He was working, hunched over a jury-rigged console, manipulating what looked like crystalline data shards. He turned, as if sensing her presence, and for a fleeting moment, his gaze seemed to lock directly with hers across the unimaginable gulf. Alara? His voice, distorted by static and distance, was a ghost of its former self, but it was sheesh. Is that you? Tears streamed down her face, a mix of pure joy and overwhelming terror. Dad, she cried, her voice cracking. It's me. I hear you. The Lumen Loom pulsed wildly, translating her emotions, her intent, into coherent energy waves. For a precious few seconds, a two-way connection was established, fragile but real. Alara, listen closely. Her father's voice, though still faint, gained a desperate urgency. I found something. A discovery. It's why I'm here. Why the Stardust Seeker. She didn't just crash. She was pulled in. Something that changes everything. A surge of static drowned out his words. The image flickered, threatening to vanish. The coordinates! Ilara shouted, desperate to hold on to him. What are they? What did you find? Not coordinates, her father's voice returned, stronger for a moment, tinged with wonder. A nexus. A living star. Not Solara 279 Gamma. That's just a veil. Beyond it, there's a gateway. Gateway? A living star? Ilara's mind reeled. This was far beyond any astrophysics she knew. I tried to send the data, but it's too vast. The loom. It's the only way. You have to find the key. My research notes. The Dichronocaskei. It holds the answers, the seed. It's here on this world, guarded. She was carrying on this world. Guarded. The connection frayed violently. The image of her father blurred, his voice dissolving into a cacophony of white noise. Ilara pounded on the lumen-loom's surface. Dad, don't go. What seed, what chronocasket? They found me. His voice, a mere whisper now, filled with a sudden chilling dread. They're here. The Guardians. You must hurry, Ilara. The seed, it's vital. For everything. Don't tell anyone yet. Not until you understand. Trust the loom. Trust yourself. Yourself. And then, silence. The lumen-loom's brilliant glow dimmed, flickering erratically, its thrumming dying down to a faint, exhausted pulse. The image of her father vanished, replaced by the familiar patterns of sleeping stars. The star heart, still connected, continued its low thrum, but its intense light had faded to a steady, deep blue. Ilara slumped onto her father's workbench, her body trembling with the aftershocks of the connection. Her father was alive, and he had found something monumental, something world-changing. But he was in danger. They had found him. Guardians? And a seed? A chronocasket. Her mind raced, trying to piece together the fragments. The chronocasket was a legendary artifact in her father's theoretical work. A device he'd dreamed of, capable of storing not just data, but atemporal information, echoes of moments in time, allowing one to relive or re-experience complex data streams. He'd never built one, or so she'd thought. He'd only ever sketched intricate designs, theoretical blueprints. Could he have actually completed it? And if so, where was it? She scanned the study, her eyes darting across every dusty shelf, every forgotten drawer. Her father was notorious for hiding his most important projects in plain sight, disguised as mundane objects. She remembered one time, he'd hidden a new propulsion crystal inside a hollowed-out antique globus. She started systematically searching. She opened every drawer, sifted through every pile of schematics. Nothing. Just the familiar clutter of his genius. Her gaze drifted to a small, unassuming wooden box on his desk, carved with intricate, swirling patterns, a gift he'd once given her mother, filled with dried stardust she'd collected on her first solo flight. It had always sat there, untouched. As she reached for it, her fingers brushed against an old leather-bound journal, tucked beneath a stack of technical manuals. It was one of her father's dream journals, where he'd recorded his subconscious thoughts, his wildest theories, often written in a unique blend of poetry and scientific shorthand. She'd often leafed through them as a child, finding comfort in his strange, beautiful musings. She opened it to a random page. Her father's familiar script filled the page, but this time, it wasn't poetic musings. It was a cryptic diagram, accompanied by a series of numbers and an inscription. One chronocasket is not a vessel of time, but a key to its understanding. It is found where memory sleeps and where the future begins. Beneath the inscription, a crude drawing. The wooden box on his desk. Ilara's heart leaped. The wooden box. It was not just a decorative item. It was the chronocasket. Her father, ever the master of misdirection, had hidden it in plain sight, disguised as a sentimental gift. Her hands trembled as she picked up the box. It felt heavier than she remembered. She traced the carved patterns, looking for a hidden latch, a secret mechanism. Her fingers brushed against a tiny, almost invisible seam along one of the carvings. With a gentle twist, a small panel slid open, revealing not dried stardust, but a complex array of shimmering, crystalline circuits nestled around a central, pulsing core. It was small enough to fit in her palm, yet it felt immense with potential. This was it. The key. Now how to use it. Her father's message had been clear. Why the lumen loom? It's the only way. You have to find the key. My research notes. The chrono casket.e. It holds the answers. Gandhi. She carefully placed the chrono casket into a small recessed slot on the lumen loom's console, a slot she'd never noticed before, perfectly sized for this device. As the casket clicked into place, the lumen loom flared to life once more. Its light now a steady, brilliant aurora. The central display shifted, no longer showing fragmented images, but complex data streams, flowing directly from the chrono casket. It was her father's entire journey, his discoveries, his theories, all compressed into a temporal cascade, a living memory. Elara closed her eyes, placing her hands on the lumen loom's surface. She opened herself to the flow of information, allowing the device to act as a bridge between her father's recorded consciousness and her own. The experience was overwhelming, a torrent of sensory input. She was no longer just seeing images, she was experiencing them. She saw her father's initial journey, the Stardust Seeker gliding through nebulae, a lonely speck against the cosmic tapestry. She felt his excitement as he followed faint, anomalous energy readings, pushing the boundaries of charted space. She felt his awe as he neared Solara 279 Gamma, realizing it was not a dead star, but a cloaked phenomenon. Then, the pull. An irresistible gravitational force, not from a black hole, but from something else, something alive. The Stardust Seeker was dragged through a shimmering distortion, a tear in spacetime, into a hidden pocket of the universe. And there it was. The living star. Not a star of fire, but a vast, luminous entity, swirling with iridescent energies, its surface shifting like liquid light. It wasn't just radiating light and heat. It was radiating consciousness. A vast, ancient intelligence. Around this living star orbited a world unlike any other. Jagged, crystalline mountains indeed, but they were not inert rock. They pulsed with an inner light, singing with faint, melodic frequencies. The rivers of liquid sulfur were not destructive, but nourishing, flowing through intricate channels that seemed to mimic neural pathways. And the flora, glowing with phosphorescence, were not just plants. They were conduits, sensors, part of a vast interconnected biological network. This was not a desolate, hostile world. It was a singular living organism, a cosmic being of unimaginable scale. And her father had crashed right in the middle of it. He wasn't just surviving, he was studying. He was communicating, not with words, but with patterns of light and sound, learning the language of this living world. He discovered that the Guardians were not hostile entities, but extensions of the planet itself, sentient crystalline beings that maintained its delicate balance, protecting its core secret. And that secret was the seed. The chrono casket projected the image of the seed, a pulsating, iridescent orb, nestled deep within the living star's core. It wasn't just a biological seed, it was a cosmic seed. A seed of creation. It held the potential for new stars, new galaxies, new universes. And it was nearing its moment of activation, its flowering. But there was a problem. The living star, this cosmic being, was weakening. Its light was fading, its consciousness dimming. It was reaching the end of its cycle, its grand life. And if it died before the seed could fully activate, the potential for creation would be lost. The entire pocket universe, sustained by its power, would collapse. Her father's mission had shifted. He wasn't just an astrogator, he had become a cosmic gardener, a desperate healer. He had realized that the Stardust Seeker hadn't just been pulled in by chance. It had been called. Her ship, designed for deep space exploration and carrying a unique array of energy harvesting and resonant frequency emitters, was the key. He was trying to use the ship's remnants, combined with the living star's own energies, to stabilize the star, to buy time for the seed to bloom. But his efforts were failing. The Guardians, sensing the star's imminent demise, were becoming agitated, their protective instincts turning aggressive. They saw her father's attempts as interference, not aid. He was running out of time, running out of resources, and his desperate communication was his last hope. His message was not a cry for rescue, but a plea for understanding. He needed her to understand the seed, the star, the guardians. He needed her to understand that the Lumen Loom was not just a bridge for communication, but a tool for interaction. It could resonate with the star's consciousness, perhaps even influence the guardians. He spoke of a lullaby, a specific sequence of resonant frequencies and light patterns that could soothe the star, calm the guardians, and accelerate the seed's activation. It was a language he was still trying to decipher, a cosmic melody he hadn't fully learned. He had only fragmented pieces. The chronocasket's data stream ended, leaving Alara in stunned silence, her mind reeling from the magnitude of her father's discovery. The Lumen Loom pulsed gently, its light now a steady, knowing blue, reflecting the profound knowledge it had just imparted. Alara knew what she had to do. Her father had set her on a path, not just to find him, but to complete his work. She wasn't just going to send a message, she was going to help save a living star, and potentially, entire new universes. But how? How could she, a child, learn a cosmic lullaby and influence a dying star across light years? The Lumen Loom was powerful, but it wasn't a starship. It couldn't transport her there. Not physically, at least. A new idea, born from the depths of the chronocasket's data and her own innate connection to the Lumen Loom, began to form in her mind. Her father had once told her that dreams were not just fantasies, but echoes of potential realities. The Lumen Loom could weave dreams. It could connect minds. If she couldn't physically go to her father, perhaps she could meet him. In a shared dream space, a construct of their combined will, empowered by the Lumen Loom and the Starheart. A dream expedition. A mental voyage. It was a fantastical notion, even for her. But her father had built the impossible. And she was his daughter. She had the key, the device, and the unshakable will. She looked at the Lumen Loom, its light beckoning her. The Starheart hummed, ready to unleash its immense power. She had to learn the lullaby. She had to understand the language of the living star. And she had to reach her father before it was too late. The vast silent sea of stars still separated them, but now, a shimmering invisible bridge stretched across it, not of metal or light, but of love, hope, and an unspoken promise. Alara was ready to cross it. The real journey she knew was just beginning. The real journey she knew was just beginning. With a deep breath, Alara placed her hands on the smooth, cool surface of the Lumen Loom. It wasn't metal, nor stone, but a substance that felt alive, like compressed starlight. Beneath her fingertips, a soft thrum resonated, vibrating up her arms and settling deep in her chest. The console shimmered with an inner glow, revealing a labyrinth of intricate circuits that pulsed like a living nervous system. "Hello?" she whispered, her voice feeling small in the vast silent chamber. A soft melodic chime answered her, not from the loom itself, but seemingly from the air around her. Then a point of light coalesced above the console, swirling into a gentle, amorphous nebula. It expanded, shimmering with all the colors of a distant galaxy, before settling into the form of a serene, luminous being, not quite human, not quite alien, but composed entirely of shifting light. It had no discernible features beyond two bright, compassionate eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of ages. "Welcome, Alara." The being's voice resonated, not in her ears, but directly in her mind, a harmonious blend of chimes and whispers. "I am Lumen. Your father configured me as a guide for this specific task." Alara's heart leaped. "Lumen? You knew my father?" "I am a computational consciousness, imbued with the sum of his research regarding the Starheart," Lumen replied, its form subtly shifting, like starlight caught in a gentle breeze. "He foresaw this moment. He knew you would come." "He knew?" A mix of relief and frustration washed over her. "Why didn't he just tell me everything?" "The knowledge required for this task cannot simply be imparted, Alara. It must be felt, understood, integrated at a fundamental level," Lumen explained patiently. "The Starheart's lullaby is not merely a sequence of notes. It is a fundamental vibrational frequency, a pattern of existence that maintains balance and harmony within cosmic structures. Your father believed you, with your innate empathy and connection to song, were uniquely suited to learn it. Lumen extended a shimmering tendril of light towards the lumen loom. This device is a bridge. It will allow you to perceive the star heart not as a distant object, but as a living entity. It will translate its raw emanations into forms your mind can comprehend. Light, sound, emotion, even memory. But be warned, Elara. The star heart is immense. Its song is complex. Distress? Elara felt a chill. What does that mean? Its core harmonies are fracturing, lumens form pulsed with a faint red tint. Think of it as a cosmic melody losing its rhythm, its tempo accelerating uncontrollably. If its song cannot be restored, the star heart will undergo a catastrophic event. It will either collapse inward into an infinitely dense singularity, or explode outward, consuming its entire system in a supernova. My father. Elara gasped. He's still there, isn't he? In that system? Lumen nodded, its luminous eyes conveying sorrow. He is. He has dedicated himself to attempting to stabilize it. But he knows the ultimate solution lies in mastering the lullaby. He is running out of time. A fresh wave of determination surged through Elara. Show me how to learn it. Lumen's form brightened. Place your hands firmly on the lumen loom. Close your eyes. Open your mind, Elara. Listen not with your ears, but with your entire being. Elara did as instructed. As her hands connected fully with the loom, the thrum intensified, becoming a pervasive vibration that resonated through her bones, her blood, every cell. When she closed her eyes, the darkness behind her eyelids was not empty. It was filled with swirling motes of light, like a million distant galaxies, suddenly brought into intimate focus. Then came the sound. It was not a single note, nor a simple chord. It was a symphony of creation itself. A deep, resonant hum that seemed to underpin all existence, overlaid with crystalline chimes, roaring solar flares, the gentle whisper of nebulae forming, and the thunderous beat of stellar collapses. It was overwhelming, a cacophony and a harmony all at once. She felt the pressure of unimaginable forces, the cold vacuum of space, the searing heat of a star's core. This is the star heart's raw song. Lumen's voice guided her, a steady anchor in the storm of sensation. It is the song of its life, its purpose, its pain. Your task is to find the dissonances, the fractures in its harmony, and then, with the loom as your instrument, learn to sing it back into balance. Elara tried to focus, to find a pattern, but it was too much. The sheer scale of the star heart's being threatened to drown her. Images flashed through her mind. Spiraling galaxies, newborn stars bursting forth, ancient celestial bodies fading into dust. She felt a profound loneliness, the vast emptiness between stars, and then a searing pain, like a tearing in the fabric of reality itself. It hurts, she whispered, tears pricking at her closed eyelids. The star heart. It's in pain. Indeed, Lumen confirmed. Its core harmony is being disrupted. There are entities, Elara, that seek to exploit such cosmic instability. They are drawn to the fracturing of starlight, feeding on the chaos, amplifying the dissonance. We call them the Void Whisperers. The mention of an external threat sharpened Elara's focus. It wasn't just a natural phenomenon, something was actively harming the star heart. This made her resolve burn even brighter. How do I find the lullaby? She asked, her voice stronger now. The lullaby is not a separate song, Lumen explained. It is the core rhythm within the star heart's own song, the fundamental resonance that sustains its life. It is the echo of creation itself. You must listen for the pattern that binds the chaos, the quiet pulse beneath the roaring storm. Elara took another deep breath and plunged back into the sensory deluge. This time, instead of being overwhelmed, she sought out the quiet places. She ignored the roaring flares and the crashing waves of energy, and instead listened for the gentle hum that seemed to persist underneath everything, like a steady heartbeat. Slowly, painstakingly, a pattern began to emerge. It was a rhythm, not of sound but of light and vibration. A gentle oscillation, a rise and fall, a subtle ebb and flow that felt deeply familiar, like a half-remembered melody from her childhood. It was soothing, comforting, a stark contrast to the surrounding cosmic maelstrom. "I think I hear it," she murmured, a flicker of joy blooming in her chest. "Excellent," Lumen chimed. "Now, use the Lumen Loom. It is a vibrational amplifier, a cosmic tuning fork. Feel the pattern, then allow your own intention, your own voice, to align with it. Project it back through the loom." Elara opened her mouth, and a soft wordless hum escaped her lips. It felt strange, almost primal, as if she were singing with her very soul. As her hum intertwined with the rhythm she perceived, the lumen loom beneath her hands began to glow brighter, its internal circuits pulsing in sync with her voice. The swirling motes of light behind her eyelids coalesced, forming clear, distinct patterns. She saw images now, not just abstract sensations. She saw a vast swirling nebula, pregnant with new stars. She saw a binary system, two suns dancing in a cosmic waltz, their gravity entwined. And then, she saw a single, immense star, brilliant and beautiful, radiating warmth and light. This, she knew, was the star heart in its healthy state. But then, the image fractured. Cracks appeared in the star's radiant surface, dark fissures spreading like spider webs. The dance of the binary system became erratic, its rhythm faltering. The nebulous colors dimmed, losing their vibrancy. A deep, unsettling tremor ran through her, echoing the star heart's pain. "The star heart is calling out." Lumen's voice was tinged with urgency. "It is crying for balance. The lullaby is its inherent song of self-correction, its mechanism for healing. You must sing it, Elara, not just to hear it, but to become it." Days blurred into a timeless cycle of intense concentration and brief, exhausted rests. Elara lived and breathed the star heart's song. She learned to identify the core frequencies, the harmonics that held galaxies together, the subtle counter-melodies that prevented cosmic structures from tearing themselves apart. She learned to distinguish the natural, creative chaos of the universe from the insidious, destructive dissonance sown by the void whisperers. Lumen guided her tirelessly, projecting complex holographic schematics of stellar dynamics, translating arcane cosmological principles into intuitive, artistic metaphors. Elara discovered that the star heart's language was not just sound, but light, gravity, dark matter, and even the faint echoes of the primordial Big Bang. One evening, after hours of intense meditation, Elara felt a profound shift. She wasn't just hearing the lullaby, she was feeling it in her bones, her blood, her very essence. It wasn't an external sound anymore, but an internal resonance. She found herself humming a melody she hadn't consciously composed, a melody that resonated perfectly with the healthy star heart's core frequency. As she sang, the lumen loom no longer just glowed. It pulsed with a warm, living light that mirrored the rhythm of her song. The air in the chamber vibrated with gentle energy. And then, something extraordinary happened. Before her, suspended in the air above the loom, a shimmering translucent pathway began to form. It was not a solid bridge, but a river of pure, iridescent light, composed of countless interwoven strands of energy, each pulsing with the star heart's lullaby. It stretched out into the darkness, piercing through the illusion of the chamber's walls, extending towards the distant, glittering void where her father was. "The invisible bridge," Elara whispered, awestruck. "It's real. It is a pathway of pure resonance, Elara," Lumen confirmed, its light shimmering with pride. "A songline across the cosmos. Your father believed that true harmony could bend space and time, that love and intention could forge pathways where none existed. But as the bridge materialized, so did another vision. Through the translucent pathway, Elara saw the star heart system. It was a familiar sight, yet terrifyingly changed. The vibrant sun was now an angry, flickering ball of plasma, its light unstable, its gravity fluctuating wildly. Planets, once orbiting serenely, now wobbled precariously, their atmospheres tearing away. And within that vision, she saw her father. He was on a small, battered research vessel, desperately working at a console, his face etched with exhaustion, his hair streaked with silver. He was surrounded by flickering energy shields, struggling to maintain his position against the intensifying chaos. He looked up, and for a fleeting moment, his eyes met hers across the impossible distance, a flicker of hope mingled with despair. Then, shadows began to coalesce around the star heart. Not physical shadows, but distortions in the fabric of light and space. They were amorphous, swirling entities, like living voids, drawn to the cosmic instability. The void whisperers. They seemed to be feeding on the star heart's fracturing energy, growing larger, darker, amplifying the star's distress. One of the larger shadows pulsed, and a dark tendril shot out, lashing at her father's vessel. The shields flared, almost collapsing. "No!" Elara cried out, her heart clenching. "They are attempting to sever his connection, to prevent him from stabilizing the star heart long enough for you to arrive," Lumen explained, its voice now urgent. "You must act, Elara. The bridge is formed, but it is fragile. It requires continuous, focused intent. You must sing, and you must journey." Elara took a deep breath, pushing down the fear that threatened to overwhelm her. She looked at the shimmering bridge, then back at the vision of her father, struggling against the encroaching darkness. She had found the lullaby. She had built the bridge. Now, she had to cross it. "How do I use it?" she asked, her voice firm. "The Lumen Loom is your anchor, your amplifier," Lumen explained. "Step onto the bridge, Elara. Let your song guide you. The bridge will respond to your harmony. It will carry you. But you must maintain the lullaby, for any lapse could cause the bridge to dissipate, or worse, expose you to the vacuum and the void whisperers." Elara hesitated for only a moment, then stepped forward. As her foot touched the iridescent pathway, a wave of pure energy surged through her, exhilarating and terrifying at once. The chamber around her dissolved, replaced by the dizzying infinite tapestry of stars. She was floating in the heart of the cosmos, suspended on a bridge of pure song. Her voice rose, clear and strong, singing the lullaby she had painstakingly learned. The melody resonated with the very fabric of the bridge, strengthening it, propelling her forward. Distant galaxies blurred into streaks of light, nebulae painted ethereal landscapes as she traversed unimaginable distances. She felt the cold of space, the gentle tug of gravity from unseen celestial bodies, the faint echoes of supernovas from millennia past. But her song, powered by the Lumen Loom, shielded her, creating a bubble of warmth and light around her. As she drew closer to the star heart system, the vision of her father's struggle became sharper, more immediate. The void whisperers, like ravenous shadows, swarmed around the failing star, their presence chilling her to the bone. They seemed to sense her approach, their forms twisting, sending tendrils of dark energy towards her, attempting to disrupt her song, to shatter the bridge. Elara focused, pouring all her love, all her determination, into her voice. The lullaby swelled, pushing back against the encroaching darkness. The Lumen Loom, still anchored in the chamber she had left behind, now seemed to draw power directly from the star heart itself, amplifying her song, transforming it into a protective wave. She felt her father's presence now, not just as a vision, but as a faint, desperate hope, echoing across the void. He was trying to send her a message, a fragmented data burst, but the void whisperers were jamming the communication. With a burst of adrenaline, Elara pushed harder, her song becoming a defiant roar against the cosmic chaos. The bridge pulsed with renewed vigor, accelerating her towards the star heart. She was close now, close enough to see the system's outermost planets, their surfaces ravaged by the unstable star. The void whisperers, enraged by her defiance, focused their collective will, generating a wave of pure dissonance, a cosmic shriek designed to tear apart her song. The bridge flickered, threatened to collapse. Elara felt a searing pain in her head, 1,000 discordant notes assaulting her mind. But then, a memory flashed. Her father, humming a lullaby to her as a child, a simple, comforting tune that always chased away the shadows under her bed. It wasn't just Sci-Fi lullaby. It was Innavari lullaby. It was the human emotion, the love, the connection, that gave her strength. She wove that personal melody, that anchor of love, into the star heart's grand symphony. The dissonance recoiled. Her song, now imbued with a unique, personal resonance, became unbreakable. The bridge solidified, burning brighter than before. She was within the star-heart system now, hurtling towards the distressed star. Her father's ship, battered but still holding, was just ahead. A tiny beacon of hope amidst the storm. Elara saw him clearly now, slumped over his console, the energy shields around his ship flickering precariously. He looked up again, and this time, a slow smile spread across his weary face. He had seen her. He knew she was coming. The Void Whisperers screamed, their forms twisting in frustrated fury. They amassed their dark energy, preparing for a final desperate attack. Elara knew she had to reach her father, and the Starheart, before they could unleash their full power. Her journey across the invisible bridge was almost complete. But the true challenge, the confrontation with the Void Whisperers and the healing of the Starheart, was yet to begin. She felt the immense power of the living star surging through her, a colossal force waiting to be harnessed. She had learned its song. Now, she had to sing it for real. Her journey across the invisible bridge was almost complete. But the true challenge, the confrontation with the Void Whisperers, and the healing of the Starheart, was yet to begin. She felt the immense power of the living star surging through her, a colossal force waiting to be harnessed. She had learned its song. Now, she had to sing it for real. With a final shimmering step, Elara's boots touched down on the inner sanctum of the Starheart. It wasn't a solid surface, but a pulsating luminous membrane that felt alive beneath her feet, vibrating with the star's slowed, troubled beat. Before her, the Starheart itself was a spectacle of fading glory. A vast, crystalline core, the size of a small moon, that usually blazed with vibrant shifting colors, emerald, sapphire, amethyst, but now flickered with sickly, muted grays and purples, like a bruised jewel. Dark tendrils, thin as spider silk but radiating an oppressive chill, snaked across its surface, draining its light. And there, standing before the Starheart, his back to her, was her father. He was surrounded by a swirling vortex of shadow, his familiar form subtly distorted, his posture rigid. He wasn't looking at the Starheart, but at something unseen beyond it, his hands raised as if conducting an invisible symphony. Then, she saw them. They were not solid beings, but shimmering, semi-transparent entities, like smoke given malevolent form, coalescing and dissipating around her father. Their forms were indistinct, their movements fluid and unsettling. And from them emanated a chilling silence, a negation of all sound, all light, all hope. These were the Void Whisperers. They didn't speak with voices, but with insidious tendrils of thought that slithered into the mind, whispering doubts, fears, and the cold logic of oblivion. As Elara stepped fully into the chamber, a wave of profound despair washed over her, an emptiness that threatened to steal her breath. You are too late. The light is fading. All efforts are futile. The Whisperers were testing her, trying to break her before she even began. But Elara tightened her grip on the Starheart's burgeoning power within her. She remembered its vibrant song, the melody of creation, of warmth, of life. She pushed back against the encroaching despair, shielding her mind. "Father!" she called, her voice echoing strangely in the silent, oppressive space. He didn't turn. His hands continued their slow, deliberate movements, and Elara realized he wasn't conducting an attack, but feeding the Starheart's energy. When something beyond her sight, directed by the Whisperers. He was unwittingly fueling their escape, or perhaps their ultimate victory. The Whisperers pulsed, their shadowy forms elongating, turning their attention to Elara. "Yan, intruder. A foolish, small spark. You cannot comprehend the true nature of silence." Their mental whispers were sharper now, like slivers of ice in her mind. "Your father has embraced the inevitable. He understands the beauty of the void." Penchuan. De human age, des soul. Elara felt the immense love for her father, and for the living star, well up inside her, a powerful counterpoint to their cold nihilism. "No!" she cried. And this time, her voice carried a different resonance, a faint hum of the Starheart's song, beginning to stir. "He has been misled. He is not himself." One of the Whisperers flowed towards her, its form momentarily solidifying into something like a skeletal hand reaching out. A wave of pure dread slammed into Elara, threatening to paralyze her. She saw visions of her starship crumbling, of her home planet swallowed by darkness, of her father's face, cold and lifeless. But Elara closed her eyes, focusing on the warmth within her, the surging power of the star heart. She remembered its lessons, its deep, resonant frequencies. She didn't just hear the song. She felt it. A symphony of light and life vibrating in every cell of her being. She opened her mouth, and though no audible sound escaped, a wave of pure living light erupted from her. Not blindingly bright, but warm, encompassing, shimmering with all the colors the star heart had lost. It was the star heart's song, made manifest. The light hit the encroaching whisperer, and it recoiled with a silent shriek, its smoky form momentarily dissolving before reforming further back, weakened. The tendrils on the star heart's surface seemed to writhe, as if in pain. Insolent child. You merely delay the inevitable. The whisperers hissed in her mind now collectively. They surged forward, a tide of shadowy despair, trying to overwhelm her. They wove illusions, showing her a future where she failed, where her father was forever lost, where the galaxy succumbed to the encroaching darkness. Elara stood firm, the living light pouring from her. She pushed back against their illusions, strengthening her resolve with every beat of the star heart within her. Her song grew, not louder, but more expansive, more intricate, weaving patterns of light that were not just illumination, but pure, unadulterated creation. It was the song of galaxies being born, of nebulae blooming, of stars igniting, of life taking root on barren worlds. Her father, still with his back to her, faltered for a moment, a barely perceptible tremor running through his rigid frame. The shadows around him flickered. Elara saw a brief flash of something familiar in his posture, a hint of the man she knew. "Father, look at me," she pleaded, pushing more of the song into her words. "Remember the stories. Remember the constellations we named together. Remember the star heart's light in your eyes." The whisperers intensified their assault, focusing on her father, trying to re-establish their full control. The shadows around him deepened, coiling tighter. Shades. She seeks to corrupt you with false hope. Embrace the peace of the end. Canon. Run. But Elara wouldn't let them. She strode forward, the living light emanating from her pushing back the encroaching shadows. Each step was a defiance, each breath a note in the star heart's song. She reached her father, placing a hand gently on his shadowy shoulder. The warmth of her touch, infused with the star heart's essence, seemed to burn away the oppressive chill surrounding him. He flinched, a gasp escaping his lips, the first sound he'd made. Slowly, agonizingly, he turned. His eyes, usually warm and bright, were clouded, distant, reflecting only the cold indifference of the void. But as he looked at Elara, as her light song bathed him, a flicker of recognition, a spark of pure, undeniable love, ignited deep within their depths. "Elara?" His voice was a hoarse whisper, full of confusion and pain, like an echo from a distant past. The whisperers shrieked, a torrent of mental static that tried to drown out his voice, to sever his connection. "He is ours. He chose the path. And no," Elara cried, tears streaming down her face, but her resolve was iron. She wrapped her father in a powerful embrace, pouring every ounce of the star heart's light song into him. It was a song of memory, of shared laughter, of quiet moments under alien skies. It was the song of a daughter's unwavering love, a force more potent than any darkness. The shadows clinging to her father recoiled, hissing silently as they were burned away by the radiant warmth. His body trembled, racked by a silent struggle as the whisperers fought for his soul. Elara felt his pain, his confusion, his deep-seated regret, but she held on, pouring more and more of the star heart's rejuvenating energy into him. Finally, with a shuddering gasp, his eyes cleared completely. The cold indifference vanished, replaced by horror, then by profound sadness, and finally, by love. He looked down at his hands, then at the weakened star heart, then back at Elara, his expression a mixture of shame and relief. "My daughter, what have I done?" "You're safe now, father," Elara whispered, pulling back slightly but keeping one hand firmly in his. We can fix this, together. The Void Whisperers, their hold on her father shattered, were enraged. They coalesced into a single, immense, swirling vortex of shadow, radiating pure malice. You have defied the natural order. You cling to a dying light. We will consume you both. They lunged forward, no longer whispering, but screaming their silent, terrifying fury. Elara and her father stood side by side, facing the encroaching darkness. Her father, though still weak, gripped her hand, and Elara felt a surge of his own pure scientific understanding, his deep, lifelong connection to the Starheart, flowing into her. His knowledge, combined with her innate connection and the Starheart's power, became a formidable force. Now, father, Elara said, her voice strong and clear, resonating with the full power of the Starheart. The song. Let's sing it. Together they unleashed the full, unadulterated song of the Starheart. It wasn't just light anymore. It was a tsunami of vibrant energy, a cascade of pure creation. It was the sound of supernovas blossoming into being, of black holes singing lullabies to new galaxies, of cosmic dust weaving itself into planets. It was the warmth of 1,000 suns, the cool embrace of nebulae, the endless dance of celestial bodies. It was the rhythm of the universe, the pulse of life itself. The Starheart, responding to their combined will and the purity of their song, pulsed with renewed vigor. The sickly grays and purples vanished, replaced by a breathtaking aurora of emeralds, sapphires and amethysts, swirling and dancing within its crystalline core. The dark tendrils shriveled, unable to withstand the overwhelming light, and disintegrated into nothingness. The Void Whisperers screamed, a cacophony of mental anguish that ripped through the chamber. The song of creation was anathema to them, a poison to their very essence. They tried to resist, to push back with their cold, silent negation. But they were overwhelmed. The light song wasn't just physical, it was existential. It filled the space they occupied, it denied their very nature, it replaced their emptiness with abundant life. One by one their shadowy forms began to fray at the edges, dissolving like smoke in a hurricane. They tried to retreat, to flee back into the deep void from which they came, but the Starheart's song was all-encompassing. It pushed them, compressed them, until their essence, their very concept of nothingness, was annihilated by the sheer, boundless power of everything. In a final silent burst, the last of the Void Whisperers dissipated, leaving behind only echoes of warmth and light. The chamber vibrated with the Starheart's triumphant song, a symphony of renewal. Elara and her father stood amidst the radiant glow, breathless but exhilarated. The Starheart was healed, its light shining brighter than ever, illuminating the entire sector, pushing back the encroaching darkness that had threatened to consume it. The final, desperate attack her father had been preparing, unknowingly for the Whisperers, was averted. The energy he had been siphoning off was now returned to its rightful source, amplifying its healing process. Her father knelt, placing a reverent hand on the vibrant surface of the Starheart. "It's more beautiful than I remember," he whispered, tears tracing paths down his cheeks. He looked at Elara, his eyes full of love and regret. "My daughter, I am so sorry. I let them. They found the cracks, the doubts, the fears. They promised peace, an end to the struggle. I was so lost." Elara knelt beside him, embracing him tightly. "It's okay, father. You're back. That's all that matters." She felt the deep, profound relief wash over her, a greater victory than any battle won. They spent what felt like hours in the Starheart's core, basking in its revitalized glow, feeling its steady, life-giving rhythm. Her father, now fully himself, began to explain the Whisperers' insidious methods, how they preyed on fatigue and despair, twisting good intentions into terrible actions. He vowed to dedicate his life to protecting the Starheart and ensuring no such influence could ever touch it again. As they finally prepared to leave, the Starheart pulsed one last gentle wave of energy towards Elara. It was a whisper of gratitude, a promise of eternal connection. She knew she would always carry a piece of its song within her, a beacon of light and hope. They returned to their ship, the journey across the now vibrant bridge, a path of shimmering starlight. The galaxy outside looked different, brighter, more hopeful, as if the Starheart's renewed song had reached every corner of the cosmos. That night, as Alara drifted to sleep in her bunk, the hum of the ship, a comforting lullaby, she still felt the gentle vibration of the Starheart's song within her. She had faced the darkness, found her father, and helped heal a living star. The universe was vast and full of wonders, but also shadows. Yet, she knew now that as long as there was love, and courage, and the willingness to sing the song of life, even the deepest darkness could be overcome. And with that peaceful thought, Alara closed her eyes, ready for whatever new adventures the dawn and the stars might bring.